Imagine this. A former president with a notoriously complicated past meets a young, revolutionary leader who just kicked the West out of his country. This wasn't just another political photo op. The meeting between South Africa's Jacob Zuma and Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso might just be the moment a new, powerful, anti-Western alliance in Africa truly begins to form. What went down in Ouagadougou could ripple across the continent. It's a handshake between two very different generations, the old guard of liberation and the new face of resistance. But the big question is, what does this alliance really mean? Is it the dawn of genuine independence for Africa, or just more political theater on the world stage? Let's break down what's happening, because this story could redefine power in Africa. In early November 2025, former South African President Jacob Zuma touched down in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. While some reports initially claimed the meeting was uncertain, it absolutely happened, and the optics were powerful. He was welcomed by a large delegation, with the visit framed around Pan-African ideals and strengthening ties with the African diaspora, a symbolic homecoming. The main event was Zuma's meeting with President Ibrahim Traoré at the Kaluba Palace on November 3rd. Official statements talked about achieving the true liberation of the continent, free from outside economic and political pressure. But this was more than just talk. Zuma, playing up his history as a comrade of Nelson Mandela, made it clear this wasn't a retirement tour. It was a public stamp of approval for the path Burkina Faso is carving out. He said he came to see a country that has done something unusual to liberate Africans here. Those words, spoken on Burkinabe soil, sent a clear message. A new alignment is taking shape. To get why this meeting matters so much, you have to look at the two men at the center of it all. They're a fascinating mix of Africa's past struggles and its current defiance. First, you've got Captain Ibrahim Traoré. At just 36, he's Africa's youngest leader and has become an icon for a new wave of Pan-Africanists. Since he took power at a 2022 coup, Traoré has launched a bold, unapologetic anti-imperialist agenda that has young people across the continent buzzing. He's often compared to revolutionary figures like Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's own modern hero, because he's all about self-reliance and national pride. He kicked out French troops, suspended French media, and is turning away from Western financial institutions like the IMF. He's trying to build a new model, insisting it's for the Burkinabe people. His government has moved to take greater control of its gold mines to ensure the nation's wealth serves its citizens, and has even promoted national culture by making the traditional Fosse d'un Fani mandatory for public servants once a week. For many, Traoré is what the future of the continent looks like, fearless and sovereign. Then you have Jacob Zuma. At 83, he's a veteran of South Africa's anti-apartheid fight, a political giant who ran the country for nearly a decade. His legacy is messy, tangled up in his liberation credentials on one hand and the corruption scandals of his presidency on the other. But since leaving office, he's reinvented himself as a Pan-African elder. His presence in Ouagadougou gives Traoré's modern revolution a dose of historical credibility. He represents the living memory of the struggle against apartheid, and his endorsement connects that fight to today's battle against neocolonialism. By standing with Traoré, Zuma is signaling that the new sovereign movements in the Sahel aren't just an isolated trend. They're the next chapter in Africa's long journey to total freedom. The stated goal of this meeting was huge: to figure out Africa's path to true liberation. Both leaders drove home the point that the fight is no longer just for political independence, it's now an economic war. Speaking at a conference in Ouagadougou, Zuma said that Africa must take charge of its future and its resources. a message that lines up perfectly with Traoré's policies. He praised Burkina Faso for making what he called very correct decisions for African sovereignty. This idea isn't new, but the energy behind it is. The heart of their shared mission is resource nationalism. We've all heard the story. African nations are rich in resources, but poor in cash. A frustrating paradox where incredible mineral wealth gets shipped out of the continent with little to show for it. Traoré's government is trying to flip the script by creating a state-owned mining corporation and building the country's first gold refinery. Burkina Faso wants to keep the value of its resources at home. It's a direct challenge to a global economic system that has long profited from Africa's raw materials. Zuma's backing is a big deal here. It shows a meeting of the minds between the old-school liberation ideals of South Africa and the aggressive, anti-imperialist action we're seeing in the Sahel. The message is simple: political freedom, the kind Nelson Mandela's Generation won, means nothing without economic freedom. This visit was basically a declaration that controlling your own minerals, land, and money is the final frontier of decolonization. This meeting is a key move in a much bigger geopolitical chess game that's changing the map of West Africa. The clearest sign of this is the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES, formed in September 2023. This confederation between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is all about collective defense and mutual support. These three nations, all run by military governments, have decided to turn their backs on the West. They've expelled French troops and, in a major shakeup, announced their withdrawal from the 50-year-old regional bloc ECOWAS in January 2025. The AES isn't just a military club, it's an economic and political project. Members are talking about creating their own investment bank and even a common currency. Ambitious plans aimed at finally achieving economic and monetary independence. This pivot away from Western partners, especially former colonial ruler France, has created a power vacuum, and other global players are happy to step in. The AES nations have been building new partnerships with countries like Russia and China, seeking alliances they feel are based more on mutual respect. Traoré's government sees this as a strategic move, a way to gain some leverage and follow a development path without the strings that often come with Western aid. Zuma's visit fits right into this picture. It's a high-profile endorsement of this new bloc from a major African figure outside the Sahel. It suggests this push for sovereignty has legs and could inspire others. This is why the meeting is more than just a handshake. It hints at the formation of a new West skeptic axis, one that could stretch from the Sahel all the way to southern Africa and completely change the continent's strategic landscape. But for all the inspiring talk of Pan-African unity, we have to get real and ask the tough questions. This new path is full of risks, and the road to a truly independent Africa is littered with failed attempts. First, there's the leadership issue. Traoré is hailed as a revolutionary hero, but he leads a military junta that seized power. Africa has a long and troubled history with military governments. Revolutionary passion can sour into authoritarianism, and promises of liberation can easily be broken. Concerns about political freedoms and the press under his rule are real. Can a military government really deliver the stable, democratic future Pan-Africanism dreams of? Then there's Jacob Zuma. He's absolutely a veteran of the anti-apartheid struggle, but his presidency was swamped by corruption allegations, and he's still dealing with legal troubles back home. Can a leader with such a complicated past be a credible spokesman for a movement supposedly about integrity and reclaiming wealth for the people? Skeptics might see his involvement as a play for personal relevance, not a purely ideological mission. And finally, there's the brutal reality on the ground. The number one promise of these new military governments was to crush the jihadist insurgencies tearing the Sahel apart. Yet, in some areas, the security situation has reportedly gotten even worse. By cutting ties with Western military partners, have these nations made themselves more vulnerable? Economic independence sounds great, but it requires stability. Saying no to the IMF and scaring off Western investors is a bold move for sovereignty, but it's also a massive economic gamble for countries already facing huge security and development crises. So, what are we to make of all this? The meeting between Jacob Zuma and Ibrahim Traoré was a landmark moment. It's a powerful symbol of a revived Pan-African spirit, connecting the liberation fights of the past with today's struggle for economic control. We are watching a new bloc form in the Sahel, one that is defiantly tearing up the old rulebook and trying to write its own. The dream is a powerful one. An Africa that controls its own destiny, fuels its own growth, and speaks with one voice. But dreams have to survive contact with reality. This path is risky. It brings up hard questions about governance, security, and whether it's possible to just unplug from the global financial system. The line between a genuine people's revolution and a military coup dressed up in anti-Western rhetoric can be dangerously thin. This is a defining moment. The African lion is stirring, but where it's headed is anyone's guess. So the final question is for you. Are we watching the birth of a new, truly independent African alliance? Or is this just another political game full of great speeches that don't lead to real change? Let me know what you think in the comments. What does this meeting mean for the future of Africa? And if you want more deep dives into the forces reshaping our world, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Stay informed, stay critical, and stay engaged.